Welcome back, everyone. I don't know about you, but my wife and I hop in the car, go for a drive. No matter where we go, we see signs out. Hiring, hiring, hiring. Labor force. Well, let's go back, mid-1800s. What was the labor force, the workforce, like then in this sort of burgeoning community? Mid-1800s, turn of the century, golden era. So we found out that at the Chapman Museum, this jewel of a museum that we have right in the heart of Glens Falls is doing an exhibit called Groundwork, Labor and a Burgeoning Community. And joining me today is the new director. This is Nicole Herwig. Hello, Nicole.
Hello, how are you?
Good, fine, thank you. It caught me by surprise. You've only been there since March, but still, Tim had been there for so long. So what's it feel like to be the new director of the Chapman?
I'm thrilled to be here. And frankly, it feels like I've been here for a very long time, although it's only been, less than a year, a few months. Um, but, it's a very exciting place. There's such a wonderful collection and a great staff. So I'm just really thrilled to be here.
The Chapman is a real gem located right here, downtown Glens Falls, right on Glen. And I know what you mean. You wander into the Chapman, you feel like you've been there forever. The exhibits are really wonderful. And I'm thinking about Ray Stoddard, of course. And you've got one of the largest collections, I understand, of Ray Stoddard's work. Is that correct?
Yes, we do have a very large collection of Seneca Ray Stoddard work. So much so that we have a gallery dedicated to just Seneca Ray Stoddard photographs. So we are in that gallery. We change those photographs over probably every 12 weeks or so. So, if you come in every few months, you'll see something new in that gallery alone. So it is really exciting to have such a great collection to draw from, where there's always something new and exciting to exhibit.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And I think you said it earlier, which was true before we started doing this interview, that Stoddard was a real Renaissance man. He's a painter, he was a poet, he was a writer. He made maps, plus a wealth of just the most beautiful photographs dedicated to our region, the Adirondack region. Let's talk about this Groundwork exhibit. This is, were you inspired by the labor issues that we face today? What was the inspiration for this one, Nicole?
Well, the labor didn't come into it until a little bit. We were exploring industry in the area from the mid 1800s to the mid 1900s, and what was at that root of that growth. And there were so many, businesses in the area that were popping up. So we just were looking at that. The early settlers here were eager to capitalize on the power of the Hudson River to move logs downstream. So mills were one of the earliest industries in the area. First lumber and then paper when hardwood became a little more scarce in the Adirondacks. And then soon other industries were drawn to the area because of the natural resources that are around. We have mineral deposits. There was vast farmland with good soil. And the waterways for transportation were really crucial. So while exploring those ideas, we came across an old 19th century photo of the Roberts family on the front lawn of their home on the corner of Ridge and Washington Streets. And in the photo was an early lumber baron, David Roberts, and his family, his wife, 7 children. But also in the picture, standing in the background, was his African-American maid. And that made us curious, like, well, what about other people that aren't lumber barons and help build this wealth? So that led to the questions of those lesser known stories about hardworking labor force and those that actually generated the success in area industry.
Well, what you're saying is really, really true. Back then, the waterway was the highway. It was the way that, goods were transported. Now, you think about lumber, and you think initially about hardwoods and what they were needed for. And then, of course, when they started to disseminate that population, then it was the softer woods, and then there was paper. But that, of course, you needed factories that produced textiles for the people. We had quarries, we had all kinds of industries popping up to support some of those key industries. One thing you mentioned, I want to cycle back on it. You mentioned that the woman was in the background there. Women played a very key role in the labor force during this period. Isn't that true?
They did, and that was especially true in service industries. Maids, if you would, and other service areas, but also in many of the factories. A lot of the textile factories, a lot of that work was considered women's work, so they lent their labor to a great deal of the wealth in the area, and generating the boom that was the settlement in Glens Falls and Queensbury and beyond in this region.
Anybody knows anything about this region knows that the Glens Falls region, especially Glens Falls, everyone thinks that Saratoga was so prosperous. Go back into history and look at how prosperous Glens Falls was. You mentioned some of the lumber barons and whatever. There is some serious wealth that moved in and out of this area, say from that mid 1800s kind of up to the mid 1900s, right? It's quite a span of time. Any newly acquired objects you found that are in the exhibit?
We do have one that stands out, and just recently, within the last 2 months, we had a very long pike, which is a 12-foot pole with a pointed end, and it's used to unjam logs on the river, so they don't get, they keep moving. And it was recently found on the bank of the Hudson when the water level was very low. So we dated that pike to around 1920. So it's been in the water for about 100 years, and now it's on the wall of the gallery. So that's a really interesting thing to come and see.
It's things like that that really open your mind, get your imagination going. What was it like? I got news for you. I would not want to be one of those guys that got on those logs with that pike to undo those log jams. That was a really dangerous profession, to say the least. And you just think about the hard labor. You mentioned workforce, and you think about that, and the women in the textile factories, their hands, that kind of very labor-intensive work. You had to be fairly rugged to be able to do this. So the mainstay of the Chapman is in a lot of ways, is photography. So you have a lot of very interesting photography to support these stories.
Yes, there are. The photography in the show, we tried to focus on looking at the people. We really wanted to see what the workers looked like at their job, as they posed for images. So there are a lot of photographs to explore, in addition to the objects that we have on view. Another thing that's really interesting in this exhibit is we pulled a lot of newspaper articles that focused on the injuries that happened, because you had just mentioned this is dangerous work. So if you have the stomach for it, there's a section on the types of injuries that were happening, and what their work really did entail.
Boy, you know what? I want to see that, but based on what I do know already, I mean, some of that stuff was really treacherous work, but it was the backbone of our country and our industry at that time. It really was. One thing that Chapman does that I really like, you've got programming attached either to a current exhibit or ongoing programming, movies I'm thinking of, some of the craft things that you do and whatever. Let's remind our viewers about some of the programming that you do.
Sure. Not all the programming relates directly to exhibitions that we have going on, but we do try to make some connections. But this fall and winter, we're going to continue our movie nights and our conversations with the past, where we have guest lecturers come in and speak with us on a variety of topics. And if you miss a Conversations with the Past series section, you can catch it on our website too, because we do record them. We will also be hosting workshops, and that we're looking at things like ceramics, jarring fruits and vegetables, knife sharpening. So we're exploring all kinds of different workshops we can have for adults. And we always have our family and children's activities on throughout the year. So those are always very popular. And watch our website for holiday events and programs, because they're always changing. We're always adding new things, but we're going to be very, very busy this fall and winter. So stay tuned.
I just love it. To our viewers, again, this is such a creative undertaking, the Chapman Museum. Always interesting things going on. Please, you'll see the website at the bottom of the screen. Check it out, and above all, participate. Bring your family, bring your grandkids, bring your significants. Just go. I'm telling you, it's really true. My wife and I go for a walk, and sometimes we haven't been to Chapman in a couple of months. Let's wander in. And every single time, it's just fascinating. The Ray Stoddard stuff goes without question, because he's such a well-known photographer. But things like the holiday exhibit that's there, and this exhibit, which just opened up, called Groundwork: Labor in a Burgeoning Community. You'll learn a lot, you're entertained, and it's our history. So at any rate, Nicole, first, congratulations on taking this position. And also thank you for taking the time to tell us about this exciting exhibit and just the Chapman in general. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You're quite welcome.